And in fact, there is a myth among the Warao people in the Delta that there was a time that you could walk across to Trinidad. And sure enough, 6,000 years ago, the Delta extended into southern Trinidad. So you can see once again how the myth of the people, repeated over generations, holds that knowledge within itself. So they entered this new world. What new world were they entering as they came into the southern Lesser Antilles? They came into a world that was volcanic. They hadn't seen this thing before. These smoldering volcanic peaks, these sulfur springs bubbling away. They did not know that down in South America. So that was one element of this new world that they came to, and they adapted. And you can go into the museum there and you will see these little three-pointer volcanic stone images. And this was their representation of these volcanic peaks, which they realized sent out ash that gave fertilizer, fertile the soil, and encouraged the growth of plants. And therefore, those images were associated with their cassava, their corn, and everything they do. And so they understood bit by bit that cycle of relationship between the land and their welfare. The other thing that they discovered as they came up the islands was the coral reef. It did not exist south of Trinidad. The waters were too muddy, and the mud waters would cover the polyps. The coral polyps could not grow. But north of Trinidad, and into particularly areas like the Grenadines, which was their first experience of this amazing new world of theirs, were the coral reefs, and the product of the coral reefs, particularly Strombus gigas, the queen conch, the conch shell. And with the conch shell, they made an amazing number of things, not just the blowing of the horn, not just the meat within it, but the way in which they used different parts of the conch shell for tools, for jewelry, and everything else. And so this was a new world into which they came, into which they discovered, and in which they adapted their lives. Various archaeologists have put together various concepts of how this world was, and it is still a debate, whether they were totally separate from the River Antilles. But more and more we realized that there was a movement back and forth between the mainland South America and these islands. They were moving in their canoes back and forth. They were picking up language patterns in South America, northern South America, and they were bringing them up here. And that is why the various missionary linguist priests who came, they found these two languages. And you found these names like Kalinago for one, and Garifuna, which became Garifuna. And linguists are still trying to work out that relationship between it all. And the experiences we have to study too of what was happening in South America, what life is like in South America, and how they adapted that life here. Even in the period of the 6th, 17th, and early 18th century, they describe the Kalinago or Garifuna people hunting with bow and arrow, hunting fish with bow and arrow off the points and in the reefs of the islands. And we can look at the culture of the people in the riverine Orinoco Valley, and we can take aspects of their culture and adapt them to what was happening here. Also, the passing on of knowledge. This was an extremely important part of the indigenous life on the islands, because remember, it has been described the education of the Kalinago people, of the children, was not any formalized thing like you have today where you are sent to school and it's almost considered not the parent's responsibility. As a teacher has to do that. In their world, the parent was paramount, instructed, guided them, almost in play. You came along with me to hunt, came to fish, and bit by bit you learned all of these things that you then would pass on to your children and your grandchildren. So here you have a Makuna shaman and boy collecting the woody stems of the yage, the vine of the soul. Now, we who are totally I don't want to go there, but I just want to say totally Christianized and see the world entirely through Western Christian eyes, we tend to scoff or we put aside the concept of understanding the spirit of the land, the spirit of the universe, and the way that you have to play your part within those laws and guidings of the universe. That was very prevalent here in Europe. And so, once again, we're taking the concept of life, pre-Columbian life, before Columbus, in the Amazon and in the Orinoco forests, and bringing them up to the islands, understanding the relationship that existed among the people with their spirit world and their respect for that spirit world. Here we see the method of construction of their huts, which followed the patterns, once again, that had been established in lowland South America. And when they came up here, in some cases, they even had to adapt to new types of vegetation. They knew what kind of posts to use for which parts of the house, which kind of thatch to use, which were the best palms, and other thatch to use for their work. And today, guys are down there in the grounds of the Alliance Française and Museum, the old library building, putting together replicas of these habitations of the past. Once again, information that has been handed down from generation to generation. And within the forests themselves, there was this amazing variety. I call it like a free supermarket. But the thing is, you had to have the knowledge to know what in that supermarket was good for you and how you could use it. And so here you have a wide variety of things, from the pigeons. In Dominica, of course, we have a heavy French influence. So a lot of our local birds and animals have that French Creole talk. So when we talk about a pigeon, we're talking about a pedri and a ramier. Okay? And many of the woods, the forest woods that are used for canoes, gommier, chatanier, pauier, balata, balata is an indigenous word, bois diable, devilwood, carapit, etc. These are aspects of the forest that is an important knowledge of which kinds of woods are good for what, and then which kinds of fruit in that forest are good for eating, the balata, the bois côté, the poitou, the zicac, maybe here you would call it fat pork, that grows mainly along the coast. All of these things in this diagram I have attempted to put together to show the variety that was available to those indigenous people. And that was the information that those indigenous people then handed on to the African arrivals. I have just, in fact, I'm finished revising a book on the Maroons of Dominica. It's called In the Forests of Freedom, The Fighting Maroons of Dominica. Just to show that Jamaica was not the be-all and end-all of Maroons. Because sometimes, like the people of St. Vincent, you have to press your case, and show Jamaicans that you had as volatile and as colorful and as a demanding group of people here in St. Vincent as the more well-known Maroons of Jamaica. So that is why I did the book about Dominica, about the Maroons of Dominica. So in that forest, you have that information, which was then handed on to the people who came. The construction of houses I've talked about already, the various types of materials that were used for them, and the different shapes of the different buildings. What is great about the study that had been done, the emergency archaeology at Argyle, is that they were able to get those post holes. They were able to uncover the form of the post holes, which gives you an idea of how long or wide these buildings were. And just as the minister mentioned the recreation of these, then it gives you, there it is. That's the blueprint, and you recreate it and make an attraction of it, as has already been done in the Kalinago territory of Dominica, where there is the Kalinago Barame Aute, which is a Kalinago cultural village that is visited by almost all the visitors that come to Dominica go there. The roseau, as we call it in Dominica, but it has its own indigenous name. It was used right today. They brought it from the Ravaka River bank. This is the reed that grows on the banks of our rivers. And that was key to the construction of Garifuna houses in the 17th and 18th centuries. Because this wonderful plant, you can use the heads for the thatch. In fact, there is medicine within the small fresh leaves at the base. And then you have got the stalks themselves, which can be used around the building for attaching the thatch and for the walls of the building. And then, of course, you've got the arrows, which were the form for their bows and arrows. It was the length of the arrows. And it can also be used to make little bird cages. So when you are holding birds, you would make them out of the arrows of this reed, and you would be able to have a bird cage. So in that one plant, you get this variety of uses and the methods of utilizing that thatch. I was very interested to see today the work that was going on there. Here you have it. It is finished just as I was coming here. They were putting up the peak of the roundhouse, and the guys were using coconuts, which coconut branches is imported. They are not indigenous to our islands, but they are adapted to that use also. And so what we have from the paintings, we can then link those paintings that were done in the 18th century, particularly those that were done by Agostino Brunias, who is was an Italian artist who painted scenes both in St. Vincent and in Dominica, because he was brought out here by Sir William Young, who owned plantations, Pembroke and the others, for instance, here in St. Vincent, and was also the governor of Dominica, the first British governor of Dominica. So this artist, by going around and painting these pictures, has provided us with a great resource for studying that indigenous heritage of ours. Then you have the method of gardening. You know, the Kalinago garden, the French used to call it un jardin caraïbe, a Carib garden, meaning that everything was planted mixed together. The plantation came and the plantation said, no, 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 you do not do it that way. We want sugar alone, we want cotton alone, we want arrowroot alone. We have fields of these things, as we have in Europe. This mixed up business is rather primitive, and we don't want it. And yet, the interrelationship of the different kinds of crops was very significant, because one crop helped another. You have things like pigeon peas, Podangol, they call it in Dominica, because it is from Angola. And the pigeon peas provide nitrates in the soil, which other plants thereby will benefit from. Then we have the whole question of documentation. All of what I've been talking about is oral history of understanding the land. And then you have the documentation, particularly the records of the early missionaries that came down here. Okay, they wanted to convert the people to Christianity, but a lot of them, more perceptive ones of them, wanted to find out what were the people's beliefs, how did they live. And we have a number of books during that early period of the 1640s, 50s, 60s, Duterte, Labat, and Father Raymond Breton. And I will be talking tomorrow, a special presentation just on this amazing dictionary, Carried Fossils, of Father Raymond Breton. He lived among the Kalinago in Dominica and Guadeloupe, and he provided a dictionary, more like an encyclopedia, of the information that he gave. And that is how we get the names of many of these islands. That's how we know what these islands were called. And the representations, once again, in engravings in these books, give us an idea. We also understand their perception of the indigenous people. Here you have it in French, des sauvages des Antilles, the savages of the Antilles. That was their concept. And in reading these books and researching them, you have to be very careful about how you assess what the people say. You have to do a double reading. You've got to read what they say, but then also work out who they are and why are they saying what they're saying. It is extremely important. One of the people that we owe a debt of gratitude to, both here in St. Vincent and also in Dominica, is this guy in the middle, Douglas Taylor. Douglas McRae Taylor worked from the 1920s, 30s, but particularly in St. Vincent, among the so-called black Caribs at that time in Garifuna. And then he went to Belize, and he did work in Belize. And he has a book, The Languages of the West Indies, which is, he was the authority, before he died in 1979, of the indigenous languages of the West Indies. A lot of his papers, when he died, his wife, who was a Kalinaga woman, asked him to come and go through his papers. And a number of these papers are at the University Library at Cave Hill. So we have that information. So quickly going through now some of the iconic pieces of material culture associated with the Garifuna and the Kalinaga people together, that if you study them in every facet, you then discover a whole wide range of information towards these people. They canoe. They are just down in South America again, the Embera men cutting a canoe out a tree trunk. Last year in October, we had a wonderful presentation about the construction of a canoe here in St. Vincent. And these canoes, in the Orinoco, for instance, the Warao, the picture on the side here shows an entire family coming from their garden, from their farm, and they're traveling with their canoe to go back to their village. I took that photograph, must be in the 1980s or so. And just as they would have traveled along the Orinoco in that picture, so they traveled from the Orinoco to Trinidad and up the islands as well. Canoe being built in Dominica, and in many cases, just like the canoes that were built here. And when you read the documentation, you find out these fantastic stories of these Garifuna people traveling along the islands, going to sign a document in 1660 of its in kicks. You know, didn't have to wait for the act, didn't have to have a passport. Let's go, brother, and up you went. Islands, pick up a few people in Waitukubuli and go to the Aguiga and mix with each other. So you find that that combination of people, those treasures among us who still know how to do these things, plus the documentation, and when we study the documentation, and we look at the different aspects of change, because originally it was with stone tools, burning the inside of the tree trunk, digging out the coal with stone tools and burning again, and up to today now with chainsaws, which have even gone further than these adze and axes that are used. And bit by bit, the stones and the water, as was done hundreds of years ago, used to open out the hull of the gommier, the tree that was used, and then the ribs are put in, and so it goes. And you find too that there's a link between the canoes and the houses, because where that red arrow is, along the side of the canoes are these strips. That is to tie out all the things that may fall out if the canoe turns over. But it has the same name as the rafters in the hut, which is where they would hang their baskets and their tools and their bows and arrows and things like that. The use, for instance, coming back to the geology of jasper, the jasper that was used for grating before the days of any kind of metal grater. What they would do is they would take a hard balata wood and hammer chips of jasper into it, and then they would grate their cassava. Now, that is one of the first signs of an indigenous settlement. If you do archaeology around St. Vincent or any of the Grenadines, Dominica, you find these jasper chips and you know, aha, let's look further. We will find more of this settlement because cassava was so important to them. And then their knowledge of the seasons, you know, dry season, wet season. Here we're still kind of adapting and calling things summer, spring, winter, fall. Summer, spring, winter, fall. We know it more, the dry season and the wet season. And they had a cycle, what you did in the dry season and what you did in the wet season. And they divided it by gender, because in the wet season, the women, of course, who were fertile and produced children, they thought they were also good in planting the plants, because then the plants would respond and bear fruit. And so there was the men's time and there was the women's time. And the men were the bats, and the women were the frogs. Because during the rainy season is when the frogs come out. And the women are represented as frog women, right? And they always have a circle with a belly button, because that's the womb, that is the area of production where the babies are produced. And we can see, if you go into the museum, that famous bat clay artifact that Dr. Kirby found at Arnos Vale, and he put it together, and it's right there. I remember him showing it to me when he first found it back in the 1970s. So there's a whole cycle of information there in that one presentation that tells us about the way in which they judged and worked and lived with their